I want to point out something that's important in all of this, which is to see that we're discovering something that's already the case, something that's already happening right now. And because of that, it's not really something that requires effort to get to, essentially. It's effortlessly the case. So keep that in mind as we're exploring this together. Okay. I'm often highlighting the way in which experience has no stability. And that's certainly a theme in the book, and we'll no doubt be revisiting that again and again, the absolute lack of any continuity to from what we call moment to moment. The way in which experience has no stability, the fact that what appears constantly slips away. A perception arises and then it's just gone. Impossible to hold on to what we call the moment owing to its complete lack of stability, just completely unstable, right? You can already feel that. Everything just slipping away. It's as if the rug is always being pulled out from under us. Experience is just gone, gone, gone. The moment literally here for no time at all because of its shape-shifting nature. As the moment arises, it's literally turning into something else. Always, always, always the place to understand any of the words is by looking at your experience, feeling it, and noticing what the words are pointing to experientially. But what's very interesting is that despite the ever-vanishing nature of what appears, experientially, there is this sense of something still being here, something remaining. Very interesting, isn't it? Has no stability. It's always slipping away, literally here for no time in terms of being a thing, an it, right, that remains a certain way, right? Oh, it's just too dynamic. There's this sense of something still being here, something remaining. What is it that seems to continue to be here despite reality's constant slipping away? What is that? What is it that's here and yet is vanishing all the time? Well, it's certainly not our thoughts, right? Those aren't remaining. A thought appears and then whoosh, it's gone. And then another thought may appear and whoosh, it's gone too. No stability at all, right? Not constant. So thoughts don't remain. Same with emotions. They arise and then disappear. They have no enduring nature. They are not what remains. Sounds, sensations, same thing. Even as they arise, they are in a process of constant disappearance. And yet, despite all this coming and going of experience, we have this sense, again, of something remaining, something always being here. What is that? Let's say you've been, well, in this case, listening to these words for the last couple of minutes. Where is that time? It's gone, isn't it? And what about the last 10 seconds? It's also disappeared. And what you experienced in the last second, gone. In the last half second, the last quarter of a second, the last one millionth of a second, gone. So again, with nothing remaining, how is it that there's this sense of something still being here? I mean, here it is. Here is here. In fact, it's the only thing, this is what's so curious. It's the only thing we ever find is that here is here. All I know is that something is here. Something's showing up. Everything's vanishing, and yet something seems to remain. What is that? Well, while there's really no word for it, maybe the simplest, most straightforward word we could use to point to this that remains is being. Everything disappears, and yet there remains this sense of being, this sense that something is. You feel that? In classical Indian music, there's an instrument, the tambura, that provides a drone accompaniment for the other instruments such as the sitar, the flute, or the voice. The drone of the tambura just keeps sounding, throughout the chant, throughout the classical raga, the piece, whatever's playing. No matter what all the other instruments are doing or playing, a lovely metaphor for the constancy of being. The tambura just keeps droning away. All the thoughts, feelings, sensations, perceptions, all of them, constantly coming and going, arising and passing away, and all the while the constant hum of being plays on. Experiences ever vanishing, yet the simple feeling of being remains. Rock solid, stable, always here, always present, even if all it gives rise to, the myriad expressions springing forth, have no stability whatsoever. I mean, you can't make sense of this really very logically or rationally, because it sounds just completely contradictory, right? The reality that's here has no enduring nature, it's constantly disappearing, and yet this same reality that has no stability, no constancy, no continuity is always here. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. But it makes sense experientially because we have this experience of the constant slipping away of everything. And you could say the constancy of that slipping away, right? It's like you've got a river that's flowing. Let's say it's the river of experiencing, or in the word I'm using here, the river of being. And it's constantly flowing, isn't it? And in that sense, the river of reality, the river of experiencing has no continuity to it in the sense of its constant. The shape of the river is never the same. So there's no, from one moment to the next, it's different, right? But the flow of the river, the flow of the river of experiencing is completely constant. It's just, here it is, streaming forth with absolutely no stability because it's of its dynamism, and yet feel how it is always here, right? The river of being, the river of experiencing. Experience is ever vanishing, yet the simple feeling of being remains. Rock solid, stable, always here, always present, even if all it gives rise to, the myriad expressions springing forth, have no stability whatsoever. It's funny, and maybe this is the case for many of you, maybe you still see it this way, look at it this way, that the spiritual teachings, some will get framed as there's all this stuff that's coming and going, and then there's somehow this stability that stands apart from it, that's untouched by it, that's unmoving, right? And a lot of the times that's talked about as awareness, but not always. The space, that's sort of unmoving, and then there's all this shit moving in the space. Like, pardon my French. It's like the sky's unmoving, and then all this stuff that's moving in the sky. But this is not what I'm talking about is not how I experience it, at least. It's like all the movement is at the same time this unmoving space. It's one thing, not two things. One thing, right? To use another, familiar metaphor is that the ocean is constantly giving rise to all this dynamism, right? All this wave-like activity. And the ocean has net zero stability, even if it's a very placid day, very quiet, not much in the way of wave generation. It's still subtly moving and changing its shape, right? So there's no constancy to the ocean's movement. It's by definition, it's alive, it's alive, and yet it's constant, constantly being the ocean, isn't it? You see, it's one thing. It's not a bunch of waves appearing in some space that's unmoving. Does that make sense? It's one thing that's both completely unmoving in the sense of it's always itself and it always remains. It never leaves itself. It always is itself. That's its constancy. And yet it's simultaneously ungraspable in its constant vanishing, constant slipping away. It's, it is paradox to the nth degree, isn't it? This constant hum, the drone of being, always changing, and in that sense, absolutely no permanence, yet always here, never disappearing. I won't go into the details. I've told the story before. I write about it in my last book when my mom passed away and I was with her at the time of her death. And it was this moment of just profoundly kind of seeing what I just said, which is that, we could think of the ultimate disappearance of the life, the passing of the life, the death of the person. And that moment is like leading up to that was just the pure radiance of existence, of being, of the presence of reality was. And then that presence moved, you could say, as this thing called the passing away of life. And and I experienced in that moment how what in a sense didn't die, even as this thing called death happened. The ultimate, we should say, in a human from the human perspective of, death, the passing away of the moment of this life. And yet I saw in that moment that life and death were the same thing. Birth and death were the same thing. They were both this existence, this being, this life. The constancy of being, the indestructible hum of existence. There's nothing outside of it to destroy it, you see. It's just one thing. It isn't a thing, but always being felt, even if always changing. The moment's always being felt, right? That's being. Always feels different in terms of its seeming qualities and characteristics and flavors, but it always is being. And that's the case effortlessly, isn't it? We don't have to do something to get ourselves into this constancy of being. The constancy of being is what reality is doing. It's constantly being. You see, that's why it's effortless. You could appreciate when you kind of see the effortlessness of it, how maddening it can be to try to make this happen somehow by doing something, right? It's like it doesn't make any sense. Now, we may hear what I'm saying, and try to locate the sense of being, right? This is a very natural thing to do. Okay, he's talking about this sense of being, its constancy. Now I'm going to try to find that constant sense of being, try to grab hold of it as a particular experience. Ah, finally, I'm really in touch with the sense of being he's talking about. But then what invariably happens to that experience of being in touch with the sense of being, what happens to that experience of being in touch with the sense of being is that it invariably slips away. And that's why we have this sense like, wait a minute, I had it and now it's gone away. Because we're associating it with a particular feeling. That's the nature of any supposed state, though, to not remain. It's not going to stay. Your experiences are not going to stay. They've never stayed. They never will stay, right? As experience, the sense of being will disappear just as all the experiences you've ever had have vanished. However, the being I'm describing is not a particular experience, but really the basis of every experience. You see, the basis of it all. That doesn't go anywhere. And for that reason, it's not something that needs to be located and then held onto because the hum of being already exists as each moment that appears. That's what I mean, the effortlessness of it. The hum of being, the constancy of being is what's appearing as this moment. And that just happened right now in this very instant, is happening in this very instant, not because I'm doing something to turn the hum of being on to get it going. Crank it up, right? I don't have to crank it up. It's cranked up already and purring along, isn't it? You know, it's not something that needs to be located and then held on to. I mean, how many, I can't tell you how long I spent trying to do just that. Maybe you have your own reference point for that search. To locate it and then hold on to it. But it's not necessary because it's already here, blazing forth as each instant. That's the hum of being. It's the basis of every experience, and that basis does not come and go, although it's constantly coming and going as the flow of experience. Feel this, the constancy of being. Always here, even as it's in a state of constant disappearance, constant vanishing. Think of being, this hum of being, this constancy of being, like a projector in the movie house. The light is always shining, right? The projector light, you look back at the projector, it's just shining, right? Creating all these images on the screen that are always changing. Zero stability. That which the light creates is ever changing. And yet, the light itself, the basis of all the transient, unstable images, is always on, always present. Right? It's amazing. It's like single light, all this flickering, all this changing, but right? Just the constancy, the flickering of reality, but the constancy of the reality, you see? Its nature is to flicker. Its nature is to change, to dance, to sparkle, to shimmer, to transform, seemingly, but always being itself. That's its constancy. There isn't anything else. It never goes away. How could it go away? Where would it go? There's nothing else but this. The light itself, the basis of all the transient, unstable images, is always on, always present. In terms of how it appears, the light of being is anything but constant, right? Obviously. I mean, this entire, what, 22 minutes, looking at the clock on my computer, it's been nothing but dynamism and change, right? All the different things that have been occurring. If you think back for a moment on the different flickers of thought and sensation and emotion and body stuff and sounds and the whole thing just constantly. But all of it's been this flow of being, right? The shining always is. Being has no off switch. What's being projected, the experiences, the circumstances are like the motion pictures playing, constantly flickering, constantly changing, every scene, every frame different. Each image here for an instant and then gone. But the projecting of being is constant. The ever-present light of being is effortlessly here. We're not having to do something to manufacture being. I mean, that's the ultimate load off to see that, right? That it's always what we're looking for. This that we are is always here as this instant, shining forth as everything. We don't have to engage in some practice or manipulation of experience to create it, as it's clearly already here. Even in moments where there's no explicit turning of attention to notice the presence of being, being is here as the fundamental basis of that moment and every moment. So you're engaged in some activity, your focus of attention is on solving some problem or whatever it is, you're pulling the weeds out of the ground or you're trying to whatever, program your computer or whatever you're doing, Um, and you're not necessarily doing what we're doing right now, which is sort of bringing a kind of intentional, explicit attention to the constancy of being. Whatever you're doing is the constancy of being. That's what it looks like in that moment. As I said, even in moments where there's no explicit turning of attention to notice the presence of being, being is here as that moment, because it's the fundamental basis of every moment. Feel the freedom of being, the unbounded, all-inclusive nature of it, right? It doesn't exclude anything because it is everything. It is the fundament of everything. It's not caught in anything, not contained in nor limited by any frame of reference. Being is without limit or definition. It is limitless, boundless. As far as the eye can see, it sees one thing, it sees being. As far as the senses can feel, that's what we experience as being. As far as you can imagine, conceptually, some vastness outside of your own experience, that imagination is being. You see, you can never get outside of this being. That's its all-inclusive nature. Clay can take the shape of anything, a cup, a saucer, a plate, a statue, but no matter the form the clay may take, it remains what it is, clay. So too with being. No matter the form this life may take, it remains itself. Everything appearing and vanishing, impossible to hold anything in place, owing to its absolute instability, and yet being remains. There's no need to try to hold on to some experience you think of as being in touch with being, for, like every other experience that arises, it too will vanish. You can count on that. Nothing need be done to sustain being, for it is self-sustaining as everything that appears. It's self-sustaining. You don't have to work at sustaining it. Let it be effortless, because it is effortlessly sustaining itself as everything. No matter what's showing up, it is this miraculous being that is not dependent upon the shape that it's taking. Right? The clay doesn't matter what shape it's taking. Whether it looks like a cup or a plate or a saucer, the clay doesn't depend upon what it's been shaped into to be clay. Its clayness is unconditioned by its form, so too with being. And that's part of the freedom of it, is its unconditional nature, right? It wouldn't be free if it was conditional on what was happening, on a certain set of circumstances or a certain kind of experience you're having. Oh, now there's being now. In other words, it's dependent upon something that's happening. It doesn't depend upon what's happening. It doesn't matter what's happening from the standpoint of it being this being, right? Because it's independent of what it looks like. Being can look like anything, obviously. Just look at life. It can look like sorrow. It can look like joy. It can look like clarity or confusion, health or illness. The point is that it's independent of what it looks like. This is its freedom. It depends upon nothing. Everything depends upon it, right? No being then that whatever that phenomena is, its existence is that's what it's dependent on. Is it's that's ridiculous to say it depends on its existence, but I think you know what I mean. Everything is disappearing, yet being remains. Everything is dying and passing away, and yet the hum of being continues on without end. This indescribable, inconceivable, fathomless being, we need not seek it out, for it is what we are, and everything is. It's what you are. I will never forget the shock of, you know, it's so simple. It's like it's so simple that you are this being. But still the shock of it initially was quite shocking because for the longest time I had of course imagined some special thing that was definitely not me, not what I was made of. Despite having read a lot of books saying, "Oh yeah, you're one with the divine, you're one with God, you're one with the ground of being." It's like, I was working very hard to find it as something else than what I was presently experiencing, but it was what I was presently experiencing. It is what we're presently experiencing right now. This is the ground of being. This is being, the hum of being, always. We need not seek it out, for it is what we are and everything is. It is finding us in every moment. We don't have to go find it. It's finding us as each moment. Every moment announces its presence. Oh, that's the simple path. Every moment announces the presence of what you're looking for. Oh, you're looking for something? Here it is. Boom. That's what you're looking for. The absolute apparition of divinity. Just like this. Oh, it looks like this. Now it looks like this. Showing up as each and every perception. This instant, the hum of being. And the next, the hum of being. And the next, the hum of being. Always here, always sounding, no matter the song that's playing.